Welcome back to KSP at ASTRA. Today we're going to Minmus or we're just dying. I have multiple missions today, a lot of them to the moon actually, or the mun, but you know, some are further away. But before we get into that, I'd like it if you maybe liked, comment, shared, subscribed, done all the things. Or maybe you just have commitment issues and all you can do is just give me a like or a comment, and that is perfectly fine. But right now we just got to get started with ASTRA 5. It's flying on an Lazarus 1, which is our reusable rocket, named after the biblical Lazarus, who was raised from the dead by Jesus. I used a random name, but I liked that one. It was that between that and Phoenix, and I was thinking about making a much more stronger one being named Phoenix. And maybe there is a bigger rocket in the future going to be named Phoenix. But until then, we have Lazarus 1. And it is currently stocked up with Billy Smith, Fred Bailey, and Rachel Leroy. It is currently on its way to low Kerbal orbit, but we have one slight thing that we're going to do, and there's a slight issue. The rest of this recording just lost. I lost the rest of this recording and some of another thing, but right now we're going to add a station core to Mesley Station, and yeah, that's basically where those Kerbals were just going to. But I lost the rest of it, and I actually lost the vehicle that they were in, specifically because I was short about 80 meters per second from basically reaching the space station. So I got all the Kerbals out, and I hopped them over, and then just deorbited the capsule. Yeah, oops. But we're gonna have to send a little rescue mission later. But here we are with the station core. This will allow us to dock more than one thing at a time to the station, which is very helpful. It'll allow us to do crew rotations and things like that. I honestly don't even know why I didn't think about this before I launched the previous Kerbals. But this is definitely going to help. It has some power generation capability, but not a lot, which is fine. It increases the total habitable area, so our Kerbals won't go crazy as quickly, and it has some cool lights for docking purposes. But here we are, we're finally getting our transfer correct. We're going to be short just a little bit of delta V, but luckily our monopropellant can actually take us there. And here we are going to get in a lot closer. This mission actually took a lot longer than what you see here. I actually had to put this up at 20 times speed. Normally I only do 5 times speed. This mission just took a long time because it was just such a heavy piece of equipment, and it was just moving so slowly. It was just a pain. But here we are. We are finally going into dock and just make Mesley Station just that much better. I forgot to tell you guys that Mesley is named after the Aztec moon god, just in case you wanted to know. But here is Mealy 1, at least I believe that's how it's supposed to be called. It's named after the Norse god of, I believe, explorers or travelers. But there is a little reason why it's named after this. This is Mealy 1, which is going to Duna. It's being launched on a Lazarus 1, which is our reusable rocket. And it's going to Duna, and it's going to be our first probe that will be around Duna. Now, when I was talking about the other footage that was lost, I also launched one of these to Jool just after this mission, but I could not find the video for it. Like, it's just not on my computer. And I swear I recorded. I swear I never even stopped the record. But it happened. Here we are. We are coming back into the atmosphere with our first stage. It is coming in hot. and I'm doing the automatic landing maneuver, and it's just not enough. I'm having so many issues, and I think it has to be. I think it's related to the engines that are currently on this craft. But here we are, setting our encounter with Duna, and we will be just rocketing off in that direction as soon as kerbally possible. Now, this is a large mission. This is our first mission to another interplanetary body, which is quite a big thing. It's taken us a little while, but we're finally here, and I believe that this is going to be a cool mission once it's up and running, orbiting Duna. And here we are about to start our next mission, ASTRA 5B. I forgot the B there. But yeah, this is ASTRA 5B. I did not want the issue for the lack of delta V to be the problem. Turns out it wasn't the problem. I accidentally entered the orbit of the Mun facing the wrong direction of the Mun based off of like just how much delta V this is. I kind of believe that's probably what I did. Plus, based off of different phases of the Mun, it'll be in different. I'll have to basically enter the orbit to get to Metzli Station in a different way because it's a polar orbit, and as it circles Kerbin, the orbit actually changes its direction around the Mun. So it's kind of complicated. Now here's our second attempt this episode at landing one of these things. And it also fails, which is not good. We've had like 2 that have successfully landed. The second stages are much more successful when they land. Although this one I don't believe will be landing because we did use all of its current available delta V. Now here you see I'm coming in on the top of the Mun. That's where I'm basically facing. But what I've been doing was going underneath, like going under the Mun, basically under its south pole to get into orbit. But that was putting me in the wrong direction, which required way too much delta V, and I need to be watching which direction the station is currently orbiting whenever I start launching things out there. But here I am setting up our encounter. I have to wait a couple orbits before I can successfully dock these 2 crafts and finally get those Kerbals in a safe position where they are currently not like the Boeing astronauts up in the space station right now. Yeah. Oh. My air filter just turned on. Here we are, just fast forwarding, and we are going to do that small burn. See how that burn was only like 15 meters per second? Well, yeah, on the other one, it was more like 900, and that was unfortunate because that left us with no delta V at all. I was completely out of monopropellant, almost completely out of monopropellant. I was able to turn it around and then kind of deorbit it, but it was really not good for us. But here we are. I'm setting up the docking. Here we are. And I decided that I'm going to also use the docking camera this time around. The docking camera hasn't been a feature in a couple of episodes, but I want to make it a more regular feature because I really like the docking camera. It's probably not what other people like, but I do enjoy the docking camera. So here I am lining up our basically we're going outside of the pizza box. We're currently making sure we're kind of lined up with the station here before we can actually start our true docking maneuver. We're actually, up until this point, we were heading away from the station, but now we have currently lined up, and we are ready to go. So here's the docking camera. It's on the left side. It's really cool because there's the station. It's just showing up, and then here we are. It also kind of shows like how much the little bursts of monopropellant have really changed the direction, and I just find it so cool. But yeah, there we are. Those Kerbals are now successfully docked. Now here we are back to Melee 1, and it's basically just doing a small course correction burn in the interplanetary space between Duna and Kerbin. And here I am setting up its eventual basically capture burn. And I noticed that Melee and Melee 2, Melee probe and the second Melee probe are struggling with connection. And that is an issue. I thought that they would be fine with connection, but it turns out they do not have a strong enough antenna on either of the crafts, which is unfortunate because here we are coming into Duna. Now the directive to basically to capture burn has already been programmed into the craft. It was only 30 days. We had nothing planned for those 30 days, so we are chilling. But here we are basically capturing around Duna. Unfortunately, there is no signal, and there probably won't be any signal for at the very least a year now, which is why our next mission will be at least somewhat helping out with a kind of re-encounter or like an ability to communicate. And that is why our next mission is very important. It is the Hermes Network. Now, it is a deep space network that is designed to be able to communicate with other planets. And I'm going to put one of these around every single planet in the Kerbal system. And it won't be as rudimentary as this one. This is very rudimentary. It's the first one. After all, it is Hermes 1. And it's also being launched on a Lazarus. But it is not designed. It is just designed to be in orbit of the sun. And that is all it's going to do. And it is going to bounce signal off of itself. And it will just sit there being a perfect relay in between basically Kerbin and Duna. And that is very useful. I'll eventually have basically really powerful Hermes satellites all across the solar system just for better communications. Like, come on, some of these Kerbals want to play Minecraft with their friends on another planet. It'll be horrifically laggy. The ping will be like 40 billion, but they'll be able to do it. You know, maybe. But yeah, it's going to be a while for this one to finally be set up in its permanent location. Hopefully it will have service all the way around. I do not know if it will permanently have service, but hopefully, you know, one day it will. Yeah, I was just making sure that it was facing the sun so that it would get as much solar power as possible. But here we are with Konu One launching on a Triton 5C. This is a new variant of the Triton 5 rocket, but it is going to be the most powerful of the Triton 5 family, and it will be the last of the Triton rockets, at least for now. But this is going to launch our fair little Kerbals all the way to Minmus. Now, Konu is, well, I mean, if you watch Moon Knight, he is the god of the moon, but he is the Egyptian god of the moon, which, you know, I thought that would be a cool name. But yeah, here we are. The Kerbals on board are Wilfred Schmidt, Craig Price, and Artur Sarin. Artur Sarin is our new pilot. He is a newbie. He has never flown before, but he will get the job done. Now this craft has a lot of solar panels and some supplies, but not enough supplies. And not just not enough supplies, these Kerbals are going to be in space for a long time, and they're not particularly fond of being in a small capsule for a long time, which is going to be an issue because we do not get a direct path to Minmus, which is it's an issue. Because of our orbital inclination, and I didn't launch in the inclination of Minmus, because normally what I do is I just fling myself out to the basically where the encounter is like a 0, but it's not it's the descending node and the ascending node. I basically launch them out to either one of those nodes, and it doesn't really work all the time. It works most of the time, but it doesn't work all of the time. And this is one of those all of the times, unfortunately. But I did notice that I can get a gravity assist off of the Mun on the next orbit to reach them. Now this is an issue. These Kerbals, they're not happy about that. And they're going to have a slight mutiny. Why I say slight is because it is quite slight. They can do stuff, so one of the life support mod I have, Kerbalism, they can do things as horrible as vent all of the fuel inside your rocket. They just decide to become tourists and not do their jobs. Which, at certain points, could be particularly deadly, which you will see later on can also be other issues in a non-deadly fashion, like they cannot leave the capsule, and not just cannot leave, you literally cannot click the EVA button because they are tourists, which is particularly annoying. But here we are. We have got our encounter of Minmus, and we are going to fly by the Mun, and then we are going to fly all the way out to Minmus. We're already on day 4. These Kerbals are not particularly happy with just my choices at all. And being fresh astronauts, well, not really fresh astronauts, but being basically fresh astronauts, they haven't been on particularly long missions at all. Like ASTRA 4 with Wilfred Schmidt and Craig Price, they were only up there for a little while. But here we are, deorbiting around Minmus. Or not we're almost deorbiting. We're capturing around Minmus. But here we are doing as much science as possible. They are already tourists, so I cannot get them to leave to reset some of the experiments. Or do a crew experiment. So that is an issue. That is a very big issue. But here we are, coming in for a landing. And we're going to land at one of Minmus's very famous flats. And we're now going to go in. We have basically no control, because it's basically nothing. We have the control of the small Mech Jeb unit that allows for a limited amount of control, but not particularly good control. Here we are, finally approaching our landing. We stuck out our landing fins. There was a little bit of a lag spike there due to the exploding lower stage there. And we have now touchdown. And now I need to run basically as many things as possible, and I need to get these Kerbals as home about as quick as possible as I can, because they're on day 6, almost day 7, and they are not happy. And I don't really know why their happiness kind of crashed so hard. They've all been on longer missions, but I believe it's because those were stations and they had a larger interior volume. But good thing this oh, what happened? My screen just turned off. We are going to be just rocketing back into the atmosphere of Kerbin as quickly as possible, and it shouldn't take very long. I believe that it'll be on day 8, which, considering how long it took to get there, is probably a welcome sign by the Kerbals. Now, I have an issue on re-entry here. The Kerbals do not want to do their job. At quite literally the most dangerous point. You see that little red Kerbal thing? There is nothing controlling it. They are refusing to do their jobs. I'm trying to get all of them to do whatever I can, and then finally, once we have fully re-entered the atmosphere, they're like, yeah, maybe we will do our jobs so that we don't die. And they finally do it. And this will be it for today. Goodbye.